All right, Space Shark here. Let's do a little update on the graph. I did some checking with a friend and he said that the tokens are 80% locked. I went and checked out the Discord, which you could do right up here for the graph at thegraph.com, and talked to him a little bit. It's every 28 days as well when you stake. When you unstake with somebody for one of the network node runners, you give them your tokens. They are locked up for however long you want, and then as soon as you unlock, there's a 28-day thawing period. So you technically couldn't even, get those tokens back or do anything. They're just totally locked up. There's also a bunch of token unlock in about 3 months from some of the founding team and some other things, but I don't think it'll affect so much. So let's take a look at what happened. All right, the entire market red, and luckily really good timing, same time with the graph, because the run was hot. You're talking 200% in 2 days. Let's do a little bit of updates on the chart here. Let's go ahead and drop into the 1 hour. All right. So we had talked about some places it could go. I'm just drawing a new structure. Let's update some lines. So let's look at the overall uptrend for all this consolidation after it was released. Pretty good line. And I do my lines a little bit different. Everyone does. Every chart technician's a little different, but I like this style. Gives me an idea of where things might go back to. A lot of times algorithms are set towards, fib levels and other things. A lot of times they're just set on these and old support and resistance. So the overall uptrend still up, but it pulled away so fast and so hard. And then it pulled into 289. And in that area, it found someone just absolutely hammering the ask. And they weren't even on the ask. They were just, as it would pop up, they would just sell a chunk and drop it 5 or 6 cents and then go away. And as soon as it would pop back up, they'd just keep hammering. They threw more cold water on it than I expected, but the market in general came down the next couple of days. So either way, it's going to come down. We talked about some areas that it could go to down below. This trend line is what I had expected to hold. Did not. When things like that for the overall uptrend don't hold, it hasn't really lost the trend, but the trend has changed in general, and you end up with something more like this. If it doesn't test and come off a support and a res from previous, high volume areas like here and here, if it doesn't hold, a lot of times it does fade off, and it starts to fade off to different moving averages because bots and traders, place sells or buys in those areas. Depends like what time frame. If they're more of a swing trader or more of an intraday trader, you'll find more demand at certain areas than you will at others, and that kind of gives you some clues to the future moves of what you might get. So in that, if we lost a green structure, the next structure we were looking for uptrend was this other line. I wasn't sure which one was better, and over time you can readjust them. But for a first shot, that wicking, I pretty much thought it was done. I thought it'd get back up in here and ride and take off, but the market tanked at the same time. We talked about that a little bit. So came back up, could not get back on top. It found a lot of supply in there. Someone kept hammering it again down in the 50 area and 55. They just would not let it pass. Sold off again, caught the next part of this uptrend. And when it got over this downtrend, I thought, okay, we're good. Found a lot of supply again, just right on the underside of that uptrend. The little local at 240s and 220s, up in that area. As it started to fade down, it just kept finding someone just selling. So as it came back, they just kept hammering. They just kind of let go at that point. I find it interesting that when it finally did let go with real volume. So I thought that soaking there, I thought that was going to be it. I actually took profit, so I didn't trade it too well. I should have took profit back there. I expected it to hold. I didn't. I was still in gains. I still made good gains, but I left a lot on the table. I had a rebuy down at 180, and then I canceled. And then I put it 150 because it looked like it was going to get worse here. Once I saw that soak up and start to climb, I went ahead and put it back on. Skipped selling it here. Did not expect that. But looking at it now, I should have. It's being sold off to the exact on the other side of that downtrend, working its way back up. Now, you've got a lot of nice soaking wick now. I thought that was a nice soaking wick. I thought that was a nice soaking wick. So we could still get a lot of sell-off again. But what areas would we be interested in? If you're already in and you're long from like 2, you're doing pretty good. You might take profit at 255. I would. I have a profit sell order set around that area. And if I think it's not going to make it the next few hours, I'll take it off and I'll rebuy on the way back down. So if you're already in, that's a good place to try to take some gains, depending upon what the chart looks like, the strength of it. If you're not already in, you should look to see a rejection here and work its way back down. And any of these supports to hold, I'd watch the volume. That volume surprised me. Wasn't expecting it. Volume was just trailing off. Hadn't expected it. But again, that came with BTC pulling back. The entire market pulled back. It took it with it. That's fine. This netted you a fantastic opportunity, like we talked about the other day, between anything under $2 is probably pretty good down to 85 cents. Meaning, if you're in at 2, it's probably pretty good if you're going to swing this for a week, a month, 5 months. If you get in at 2 and it drops to, 80 cents, you're going to be pissed. So I would maybe scale in if you see it coming back, if you don't see the strength continuation going on, but the market should turn in a couple days minus any crazy events. Now, if we don't get any crazy events, these are those next areas that I'm most interested in because of these. I'm interested in contact right here. These I'll update in another day if it happens to get over. I think 3, if it can break 290, it doesn't find massive supply again. If it doesn't find it at 255 and send it back down, we got a good chance to go test 290 and test into 3. I think it'll be found at 3 in the next, day, 2-3 days. And then it'll come back down. So I'm going to try to sell here. I'm going to try to enter back in probably either at 220s, 230s, maybe down to 2. And then I'll try to take it off again at 250, 255 if it's not looking strong. If it's looking strong and it's accumulating slow and doing its thing, then I'll be looking for the 3 test in that area. Those are the most interesting to me. I would really like to see it hit 255 and fall back down to like the 130 and catch that rising up trend, or to tap this downtrend here one more time. That would be, really nice, because the idea on graph overall by the end of the year is significantly higher given what they do and given how valuable they are. I do feel that graph is a very quality long-term project. I am kind of day trading this a little bit now because, the moves are really good and the market's really, really hot still. And the pullbacks are getting decent enough to recollect very short term and not stay down. Like, it hasn't just sank and fallen apart. I really like what I'm seeing so far in the graph. I don't think it looks fantastic in the chart. I mean, it's clearly lost its overall uptrend that needs to consolidate. Where it consolidates, again, anybody knows, but those are the areas, the main areas to watch. 175, where it came down to and found support in that giant candle of sell-off and buying up in that hour. We can go back and look at that too in a 1-minute chart. And, in that 1 minute, I mean, they hammered it. And they hammered it hard, real hard. But it didn't go so far on that one massive candle. It was still kind of being soaked. And then they just rejected there. That was it. That little over $2 mark, it let go, and psychologically when 2 failed, people just got out. They just kept dumping. As soon as it tapped the line though, volume came in for the buys. And from there on, it's kind of it's tried a couple times to dump in those candles. It hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just hit, trend lines and keeps trying to go back up. It wants to. I feel like they're rotating profit takers out. If you look at supply and the rotation of how much has changed hands, everyone should be getting close to a $2 cost average. So unless it starts tanking underneath and you find people ditching, trying to cut losses, 175 to 130, probably the deepest it'll go. Caveat the market melting down. If the market catches back on fire, we should see a push over 3, maybe to 4, and then a fade back off to 3 to test 3 and consolidate there and sustain, and then move on for the next moves for the 5 zone. And then again, maybe like a pop to like 6, 7, and then maybe a fade back off to like 4, test that area, and then pushing on, trying to get into the 10. I think 10 is the overall goal within a couple months. 10 looks pretty good. And don't hold me to that, because obviously if the market melts down, the market melts down. Nobody can do anything about that. But as far as this market looks, in the way that it looks, still solid for a little bit longer, the quality of the project, what this project does, that is about a fair pricing in a fair area. Anyway, we'll look at this again in a day and see what it did. We'll see if we ended up back down here testing for dip buyers, or if we find support and just keep cranking up. Any of those areas would be really good areas. 255, 226, $2, 174. As far as support and res go, As far as the downtrending line, as time goes forward, obviously it sinks deeper. So like if it dropped right now, 144. If it drops in, 10, 12 hours, 130. 130 is another hard support and res, and then following down that trend line if it just keeps sinking. And where above would we be looking to take gains potentially if we weren't going to just hold this for the 6-7 weeks, couple months? 255. Any place that contacts this uptrend line. 309. And then if it gets over that, I'd be looking for it to test, maybe dip a little under, hold, and keep continuation going on. That would net us new chart territory at that point. That would be a future video of what we would look at. And then we'd come back and look at like these other uptrends and the angulars. And that is why I'm looking at 10. Overall, if it gets back into that trajectory, you'll end up at $7-8. Not too far off. All right, thanks for watching. This was the graph. And this was the current state of the market. We'll just sort that real quick so you can kind of see in the last 24 hours. There is some stuff that has just started to go back up, but it's still down. But every 24 hours, it clicks and it starts. So some stuff has started to recover a little bit. Bitcoin Gold, DGB, Theta. I like Theta. Theta's a good token. Raven is up, but I don't know. Not a big fan. And then you can see Graph. Graph is up. But that's all still not recovered the gains that it had from the last few days. And some things are still way down, recovering. 1 inch, good project. eGold, fantastic project. That project is like Bitcoin and Ethereum together in the same chain. Once that finally gets the right traction, that token is going to be worth a lot. That's something I keep my eye on. We'll do a video on eGold down the road. And that's just our quick market recap. Thanks.